Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Brady Haye Mortgage Team podcast, where we're focused on building quality relationships with quality people and growing together. Pleased to have another episode for you today. I'm super excited about today's guest. Been with the company for a couple of months now. He works for lower.com and really, from my perspective, has just been making a true, genuine, positive impact on our loan officers and really just kind of empowering us to just be better at what we do, right, and make a positive impact on our referral partners and our clients. And so pleased to introduce James Duncan onto the call today, and excited to hear about his journey and kind of how we kind of got to where he's at today. So James, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure, Brady. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of it.
Absolutely. No, it's so, kind of like I said, from a third party and from a distance, obviously some context for those listening. James is not local to the Des Moines or the Iowa market, but, recently joined on with our crew and has been making an impact in our, just our sales force. And, just am excited to kind of have you share, how you got started, how long you've been doing it, kind of what your role is, and all your insight and knowledge that you've had over the years. So
sure. Well, I'll start off. Excuse me if I can stumble over my words. I'll start off by saying that I am at least I do have a level of familiarity with the Des Moines area because my dad was actually born and raised and lived in
oh, look at that.
Atlantic, Iowa,
Okay.
and played back in the '50s. Played basketball at Iowa State up in Ames.
Okay. Very cool.
I
Very
spent
cool.
I spent
Local
a
Iowa
good
roots
amount of my
then.
youth. I spent a good amount of my youth up that way, visiting family and stuff. But anyway, you didn't bring me on to talk about Iowa. You brought me on to talk about mortgage
Hey,
and all the and marketing within our industry. So,
yeah.
I guess I'll start by kind of going back to the origins. I first started in the real estate industry in 2004 when I hooked up with a custom home builder that was here in the Austin, Texas area where I currently live.
Okay.
And did that for a couple of years, and really did enjoyed it. I'd always had a dream of getting into the real estate in that capacity, and I thought that I had found my dream job is what I was going to do for the rest of my career. And the market, however, seeing as how what was coming a few years later, the market had other plans. And when 2008, 2009 hit, that builder ended up going out of business. Unfortunately, it was just really bad timing. Builder got over leveraged in terms of trying to expand into new developments, and anyway, just ran out of capital and had to shutter his doors. So it was still a really good experience for me, just kind of giving me, because I was able, working for the builder, I was able to have exposure to so many different aspects of the real estate industry. I worked with realtors and title companies and lenders, so I got to see what everybody was responsible for doing.
Okay.
And that kind of put the bug in my ear that I knew for the rest of my career I was going to be involved in real estate in some capacity. So while I was with that builder, went and got licensed as a realtor, did that for a short time. Of course, with what was going on in the Great Recession of 08 and 09, really needed, and being new to the industry, it was really tough to kind of get a foothold into things.
Sure.
So I knew, and I had two young boys at the time, so I knew I needed something that was a little bit more stable. So I became a high school teacher and was a public school teacher for about 5 years during that interim. And that's where I really learned. Being a teacher actually taught me more about sales than anything else previously in my career. And so I really point to that as kind of a cornerstone or foundational moment for kind of who I am today and the coaching that I'm able to provide.
Yeah.
Well, taught for 5 years and decided that I wanted to get things kind of settled out in real estate, and decided I wanted to get back into it full time. So this time I jumped over into the mortgage side, and that's where I really kind of hit my stride and found my purpose. And in 2017, I was tapped on the shoulder to head up the marketing division for what was then Thrive Mortgage. And actually, that was before Thrive Mortgage. I mean, we operated under a different name. I came on right on the cusp of us going through a rebrand to become Thrive Mortgage, and built that brand for a good 7 years. And of course, at the beginning of this year, we merged with Lower, and I was tapped on the shoulder again to take over the marketing and brand division for all of Lower. And so I have the pleasure of working with some fantastic professionals, both within the direct to consumer side, but most especially on the retail side, such as yourself. And
Yeah.
so it's just been a fun journey, and I've learned a lot through that process, and I'm excited to learn even more.
Yeah, it sounds like it's only the beginning, and I think there's a couple of things there that you shared that I'm really excited to continue to unpack. I want to have you share a little bit more detail about the experience you had with that builder, kind of the
Sure.
struggles and issues you had about the 0809 time, kind of comparing that even to today's market, and then
Hmm.
we'll dive deeper into kind of what you're seeing now at lower, and kind of where you're seeing from our crew too. There's a ton of great things here, but let's
Yep.
kind of start with the beginning of your career, right? So
Sure.
you're coming in, and this you're kind of experiencing from a third party who didn't obviously have a lot to do with the actual issues that the builder was facing there, right? But
Hmm.
how did you perceive that, and what things did you kind of learn from that, and then how would
Hmm.
you compare that to today's market, right? Because I know it's very, very different, but we are
Sure.
like, I'll be honest, I've had conversations with people that are talking about the low inventory items and issues we're dealing with. And I think that at least in our market, and I'm sure probably in yours as well, we're noticing builders just frankly not building as many homes right now,
Hmm.
hopefully to prevent something like '08 and '09 from happening again. But yeah, just kind of curious, share your experiences on a couple of items that you learned during that time, and how you would relate it to today.
That's an excellent question, and and opens up a whole bunch of rabbit trails that we could possibly
Yeah.
go down. But I'll try to keep it relatively succinct. I think when I was working for the builder,
Okay.
the it was I really had this overwhelming sense of I didn't know what I didn't know. And so it took me some time to figure out what were the right questions for me to
Okay.
ask. Because I could have just spent my time asking any question just to fill my head with knowledge and trivia, but I
Sure.
didn't want just that. I wanted to learn, but I wanted to be able to make connections and have a lot of those aha moments. I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned in working for that builder was just the overall understanding of the entire ecosystem of real estate, and how there's all this interplay in whether it's in the realm of financing, and financing developing entire subdivisions versus building a custom home specifically for a client, which was predominantly what I did.
Sure.
And so I got to work on both the sales side as well as the design side, because I did have some design experience in my background. But I
Okay.
would work with the architect to move the walls and structure it so that the house flowed exactly the way the client wanted it. So that experience for me was a good test in understanding how to get to the root issue of what is motivating that client, and what
Sure.
they're and really uncovering through all of the having to sift through all of the details and ask a million different questions, sometimes the same question a number of different ways, in order to get to that root issue of what is most important to you
Yeah.
as the prospective home buyer. And I think that lesson, over and above everything else, um, what was really significant, because it's something that every single professional, doesn't matter if you work for a title company, a mortgage company, or are a real estate broker,
Yep.
that is your job.
Right.
That is the heart and soul of what is going to help you to stand out as a true professional in your marketplace,
Yep.
versus everybody else who's just kind of sees themselves as order takers, and
Yeah.
doesn't really provide the value that folks need to that folks in our
Yeah.
industry need to provide. Um, you also asked about how ways that I see just differences between then and now.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, you kind of alluded to it. The reasons or the causes of what led to '08, '09, and the Great Recession, the crash in the housing market, are not at play today. That
Right.
was We were still in the days of the wild wild west, with all the unique and very nuanced programs, let's say,
Mhm.
that folks weren't really being the consumers weren't really being educated on properly, the way that they should have been, or the way that they are now.
Yep.
And then a lot of changes came to our industry that prevented us from just going willy-nilly signing people up for those option arms and the pickup payment programs and all that.
Yep.
Those things are gone.
Yeah.
And if they do exist, it's in very limited pockets, and you can only do those loans for a specific borrower profile who that program is intended to serve.
Yep.
And so the conditions that made the industry ripe for a fall and a crash that we saw are absolutely not what we're seeing today.
Yep.
It's a different set of variables, a different set of problems that we're experiencing today.
I think that's spot on. Yeah, I mean, like you said, we're doing our due diligence, right? With the
Right.
approvals we're giving, we're making sure these people that we're approving to buy houses right now are well qualified, and we're documenting. And frankly, one could argue, and maybe you don't even have to argue, that we're the most monitored and regulated industry in the entire United States, right? And so
Darn
we
tootin'.
are,
Sure feels that way.
That's correct, and maybe that's just me speaking from experience, but
Exactly.
I think that for the lenders out there that are doing it the right way,
Hmm.
the things that we're required to do on our side are exactly that, to protect things like that from happening again. So we're making sure
That's
these
correct.
people that are getting approved are well qualified. So
Yep.
no, that's super good feedback. I'm trying to think where I want to go next with that. So you got to experience the design side
Hmm.
of building, and so then remind me, what was your transition then outside of that? So that builder closes its doors, and then your next step into was into teaching, right? And so
Right.
then kind of touch on, I know you mentioned earlier, you said that you learned more from teaching in regards to sales than you did from anything else. So what I guess, what classes were you teaching? What was, kind of your nuances that you learned there, and how do you relate that to what you do today?
Sure. There was a brief transitory period where that kind of overlaps that period in my career where I began the process of getting licensed as a realtor while I was still working for the builder.
Okay.
The way the state of Texas is set up is if you work for a builder, you don't have to have a realtor's license in order to sell the builder's product because it's new homes.
Okay.
I decided it would be in my best interest to, just for the sake of making my services more marketable, to go ahead and get my realtor's license. I knew that it would. I'm a insatiable learner. Like
Hmm.
I want to pick up a book and read it cover to cover and learn, glean everything I can out of it. So I went ahead and got licensed as a realtor, even though I didn't necessarily need it. Turns out that was a pretty good lifeboat for me to have, because I was able to, when the builder folded, I was able to hook up with a local real estate brokerage and be getting some additional income to kind of
Yeah.
supplement what I had lost working for the builder.
Sure.
And it kind of served as a lifeboat for me during that transition period. But yes, you're correct. I decided to job security being a high priority in my life at that
Hmm.
time. I decided to go in and get licensed as a teacher. I come
Yeah.
from multiple generations of teachers, so it kind of came out in how I would sell to my clients anyway, and so it just felt like a pretty normal fit. Still also gave me the
Yeah.
flexibility to continue staying plugged into the real estate industry as well while I did that. But in my role as a teacher, I knew that if I taught the same subject for 8 periods in a row, that I would probably end up on the 10 o'clock news for doing something bad. So I told them, give me as many preps as you want. And I ended up teaching at my peak, the most or the most different classes that I taught was 5. And which, like, and for any teachers listening in, they know how crazy that is as a prospect. But I predominantly taught English, and just came from a very strong background of going through high school and college and being an avid writer and all that, and had a pretty strong command of the English language. So I was like, yeah, I'll just do that. But taught history, world history, taught a philosophy course that was actually one of my favorite classes to teach, and then a couple of business courses, because I had, at that point, had about a 13-year career in the corporate world to fall back on. So that was a pretty easy transition. Um, the thing that I love the most about teaching, it's funny, when I got out of teaching, people would ask me all the time, did you get out because of the kids? I was like, no, actually, I got out because of the adults. I loved working with the kids, and it's just I started to really see, the longer I was in it, I really started to see how much bureaucracy there actually is in public education, and the way that teachers are being dictated to, in terms of, you have to do this kind of curriculum, or we have to have this kind of standardized testing, or you have to do it this way, instead of just trusting the teachers that A, they know their subject matter, and B, they know how to connect with the kids, and just just leave them alone and let them do their thing. And I promise you, the students will benefit if you've got the right kind of teacher in the right position. And the more that I kind of grew disenchanted with what I was seeing, the more I was really drawn to get out of that and get back into real estate full time. But I absolutely loved the time that I spent as a teacher. Made great connections. Still a handful of students that will reach out to me from time to time and say, "Hey, I remember having you as my English teacher." Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But that was a really important transition period in my life and in my career, because there's so much of what I do now that I really draw upon from that experience, and being able to take a piece of content and really drill it down to its essential elements. And not only that, but also by extension, be able to explain and define and illustrate why that knowledge is so vastly important for your future, you being
Yeah.
who the listener is. That was one of the key things that I picked up on and really tried to hammer home in being a teacher. I made a pledge to my students. I was never going to introduce a lesson plan or introduce some topic to them if I didn't have a definitive answer for why that information was going to be, or how that information was going to be applicable to them later in life.
Yeah.
And
And how, yeah, I mean, I can tell you from my experience, it's definitely like, it's apparent that you're passionate about education and teaching
Very.
and, giving advice and giving, like you said, coaching is a big part of what you do too. So,
Yep.
yeah, thank you, I guess, for being a valued resource and stuff. And yeah, just kind of, pouring into our entire group. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's cool. So one other thing that you had.
Yeah, that's incredible. Let's kind of dive in. I noticed one specific thing you touched on earlier that I think is just, it's so cool to hear you say, because, and this is funny because I'm just going to go out on a limb and guess you've probably not watched any of my other episodes yet, but
Actually, I did. As soon as I got the invite for this, yeah, I
Okay.
went and
Look at
checked
you.
out. I haven't watched complete episodes, but I wanted
That's
to
fair.
get
So you
kind
get
of
the
a
heart
rim
behind it. I
thing.
like it.
Yeah,
So you kind of
exactly.
know what we're getting at. So yeah,
Yeah,
so
I follow you.
the main heart behind all of this, and really the way I've built my core business, is to build quality relationships with quality people and grow together, right? And
Mhm.
one of the things that really stood out to me about what you touched on, what that you discovered pretty early into your real estate career, is the only thing that matters a part of a transaction, whether you're in title, whether you're in real estate, whether you're a lender, is helping a client achieve their dreams and
Yeah.
executing on their goals, right? So
Mhm.
kind of touch on, whether it's, your experience in sales or whether it's your experience in teaching, how did you develop a passion for that? And what are some strategies you use today to kind of implement, and maybe some suggestions to real estate agents or clients that are listening to this as well?
Well, as far as the tie down or the connection between teaching and kind of the epiphanies that I've had since then, I remember distinctly standing in the teacher staff room, no students present, and having a conversation with some other teachers, very veteran teachers, and it just kind of struck me, listening to the conversation that was going on, that teaching is a sales position.
It
Whether you
is.
want to see it that way or not, teaching is a sales position. If you think about it, you've got a captive audience for 55 minutes or 85 minutes, depending on
At least we
what
hope
else.
they're captive, right? It's
Exactly. Well,
probably
yeah,
tough in today's world to
that's the intent.
get
Yeah,
those kids bought in.
captive only from the standpoint of they can't leave without your
Right.
permission, or
That's
shouldn't be
fair.
leaving. Anyway, I said you've got a captive audience of like 30 to 35 people every hour, and they're sitting there. Um, Wondering why in the world should they buy into what it is that you're pitching to them.
Yeah.
And you, as the salesperson, aka the teacher, you have an obligation to explain the information to them in such a way that they get it and they find that it's applicable to them. And it's very hard for you to do that as a teacher, and every experienced teacher knows this. It's very hard for them to want to take in and consume and retain the information that you're telling if they have zero connection with you, if they have zero
Yeah.
relationship. Every teacher worth their weight will tell you that one of the things that keeps them coming back doing what they do is the connections that they make with the kids.
Yeah.
And the challenges, what's kind of funny is that I would usually inherit a lot of the challenging students that other teachers that they were just troublemakers or whatever reason.
Sure.
They just kept getting passed around from teacher to teacher. they usually would kind of funnel and wound up in my class for whatever reason. I don't know if it was intentional or just by God's design, like this
Yeah.
kid needs to be with you. But I always seemed to really connect with. It wasn't 100% of the time. I'm not batting 1,000 there, but I usually had a way of really getting right in the middle of whatever the issue was with that particular student and why they were acting up in those other classes.
Yeah.
But they didn't act up in mine. And I mean, they would when they first got there, but I would take a little extra time to make sure that I connected with that student to really get to the heart of the matter of what it was that was causing them to act in the way that they were doing, or make them
Yeah.
think that I was just some another same old teacher that was going to just stand up there and regurgitate to them. And I just found creative ways of connecting, and
Yeah.
that was something that I think was lacking, that as far as a skill of mine from my past history as a salesperson and as a
Yeah.
marketer, as I was missing that component of truly understanding the human element, the human connection part of it. Teaching instilled that in me. And so when I first jumped back into the mortgage industry, I jumped in as a trainer.
Okay.
Same kind of scenario. I mean, people would joke with me if it was any different teaching teenagers versus teaching loan officers. And I said, no, not really. I'm still telling people to put up their cell phones. And the what was funny about working with loan officers is I had the same issues.
Yeah.
I could, as a trainer, I could stand up there and say, this is important. You got to learn this, blah, 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 and try and beat all the details into the head. But if I didn't have a connection with them and if I couldn't remember their name, if I kept on to say, remind me your name again, or something like that, instead of saying, Joe, let's talk about something real quick. Let's role play a scenario. And I'm using his first name, and I'm listening to things that he has said. Maybe when as class was getting going, maybe he says something that clearly isn't a priority to him. Then I use it, and that's how you make those same connections with your clients. And I love what you just said in setting up this question. Was I might have you say it so I don't butcher it, but I build quality relationships with quality people. that that and what I hear as far as the tone of what I hear in that is that it's not a discriminatory statement. You are looking for
Yep.
everybody has bona fide qualities that make them unique, and it's our
Yep.
job to as salespeople to find that, to make that connection and pull that quality out of that person and bring it to its forefront.
Yeah.
So I think that is a beautiful statement and a beautiful mission for how it guides you as you build your business. So kudos to you on that. But
Thank you for that. Yeah,
that,
honestly, it was something that was mentioned to me early in my time. So I guess for context for you, I did about a year and a half in the call center in the
uh-huh,
mortgage industry, and then transitioned to the retail side where I'm at now. And
that
when
helps.
I made that transition, I knew that I loved the process of the problem solving of
Mhm.
trying to figure out the nuances of someone's goals with buying a home or refinancing or whatever it may be, and like trying to get creative on how to make the deal best fit for them. But I hated the way I had to do it because it was all transactional, right, in the call center. And so that's when I transitioned to the local space, and I knew that it was going to be solely focused on the people that I'm connecting with on my own. And obviously, yes, that was a big risk, but I quickly learned early on that it necessarily isn't just going and targeting potential contacts that may have the most amount of leads for you, right? Like
Yeah.
that was not the way that I wanted to approach it. I kind of learned that the hard way, to be honest with you. It was one of those situations where I remember specifically, and this would have been 7 or 8 years ago by now, but I remember connecting with a real estate agent that was, looking for a new lending partner, and they
Mhm.
wanted to send some leads and business my way. And I quickly learned after one, two, three transactions that they just weren't super authentic, right? And they
Right.
weren't doing it for the right reasons. They maybe didn't treat people the way very well. They would kind of cuss them out, and it just wasn't the way that I'm. My heart behind the way I wanted to do it is not
Right.
that way. And so that was when I pretty quickly instilled that quality relationships piece of my business. Is like, listen, it may not lead to me being the biggest mortgage lender and the number one units producer in the United States, like, but what I want to do is I want to work and align with people who want to treat clients the way that I want to be treated, and the way that they deserve to be treated. And we all have similar goals and mindsets on how we want to grow. And if I can do that and grow and expand, what a win, right? And you get,
Absolutely.
as soon as I instilled that, I'll be honest with you, I saw an increase in quality of transactions and
Mhm.
quality of experiences and 5-star reviews. And because you all feel that passion, right? The no different that the passion you felt when you were in the classroom, and you found I would say you found a passion for, and it doesn't have to be just the trouble kids, but it could be anybody in your classroom. Like, you found a passion for like helping them grow and expand, and help them find their desire and want to be there, right? Same thing
Yeah.
with me. I found it so much easier to be passionate about my job and not burn out when there was that connection there, right? And they respected me, I respected them, and we were all there to help them achieve those same things. And I guess I'd love to hear you kind of touch, because I think that your passion for what we do is apparent in
Mhm.
what you're perceiving to our company. So I'd love to
Mhm.
have you touch on, like, how do you continue to stay passionate over all these years, and what keeps you driving, and what keeps you, I read on your website, and maybe it was your old website, but I remember it was something along the lines of, I love waking up every day knowing I get to do this, right? Or
Yeah.
something along those lines. And you can correct me if that's incorrect, but
No, you nailed it.
love to hear you chat about how you continue to stay passionate about mortgages, real estate, the clients. Kind of touch on that if you can.
Well, one of the benefits that I have is I already said I'm an insatiable learner,
Yep.
and I love I love trying new things. I love tinkering. I love finding creative solutions to old problems. And one of the things that has always really stuck with me is that I'm not going to be afraid to try something new. And when I got into the mortgage industry and started being a trainer, I was training loan officers on specifically on how to use certain pieces of tech, like a loan origination system, that kind of stuff. The more that I engaged with those loan officers, I was like, dang, I can do this.
Yeah.
And so I went out and got licensed so
Okay.
that I could then just, again, as a way of making myself more marketable. So as a trainer, that went from me just explaining how to use a loan origination system to being able to handle transition loans for incoming loan officers.
Sure.
And that was hugely informative in terms of not only did I know that I needed to have to connect with someone who was not technically my client, but they still expect the same level of service from me that they were getting from
The
the
person they
loan officer
trust.
that started the process. Yeah, somebody that they built trust with,
Yeah.
and we're expecting that out of me. The loan officer was expecting it out of me because it's their livelihood.
They
It's
were,
like, screw up
yeah,
my deal.
they were signing on with our company. So it's,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly right. So it was during that process that I discovered, hey, I'm actually kind of good at this, and so I started getting my hands on every training series that I could, getting like reading High Trust Selling by Todd Duncan, and getting into listening to Barry Habib on a weekly basis, and just all the things, all the resources the top loan originators access.
Yeah.
And as I kind of grew that component of my business, I actually started originating more and more, and that transitioned. But I knew that I never really wanted to be a full-time loan originator because I knew
Okay.
that wasn't necessarily my calling. But
Yeah.
it was great having that context and having that information. Then when I was tapped on the shoulder to lead the marketing division, I was like, aha, this is it. This
Mhm.
is why I was going through all those iterations. This is why I had all of those different detours and pit stops throughout my career, because all of that was a culmination culminated into what I do now. So as the SVP of marketing for Lower, I now have a certain perception of what I've always known what good marketing is, and the concepts of marketing. So that piece has already been dialed in for me for a long time.
Okay.
But now couple that with being able to evaluate things through whether it's technology or marketing campaigns or various strategies related to lead generation and so on and so forth. It's now everything is vetted through the lens of how a loan officer thinks, talks, and acts, because I've done it. I've had
Been
those
there.
conversations with borrowers. I've built relationships with realtors. I've had to I don't want to say argue with underwriters, but I've been a passionate defender of how something was going to resolve a particular condition.
Yeah.
And so I've had those battles, and I bring that into the role that I have now as the head of marketing for Lower, and I'm able to then be able to present content and strategy and technology platforms to you guys that are out there doing the work and hitting
Yeah.
the bricks and bringing in the deals. And I'm able to do it in a way that connects with you, that resonates with you, and that you're like, you're gonna want to use it because it was created from the mindset of how you act and
Someone's
how
in that
you build
position.
your business.
Yeah. I love that. That's yeah, it's reassuring to see from our side, with us being in the
Cool.
trenches. And yeah, I mean, it's just great to have somebody in our corner that can continue to provide different values and things that we can kind of pass along to our clients and our partners. So
Absolutely.
kind of touch on that, I guess. So you've been with Lower now for 7 or 8 months or so. Is that
Mhm.
timeline correct?
Yeah,
Um,
pretty correct.
so touch on, I guess, so what would you say some of the differences you see now that you're here at Lower versus your past life versus maybe other competitors, things like that? Kind of touch on, what are things that you see us doing that should be reasons for referral partners and clients to trust us with business, and anything, I guess, I can learn as well to help implement to help my clients at a better level.
Absolutely. There's a couple things that really jumped out at me through the process of going through this merger. Anytime mergers and acquisitions are going to continue to happen all across the industry, like we're not done either.
Sure.
But anytime that a merger takes place, there's always a bit of trepidation on both sides.
Yeah.
What was really cool about this one is that there was very little overlap in terms of stepping on each other's toes. Because historically the folks that came over from Thrive, we had solved certain problems that Lower was still working on solving. There were things that Thrive was trying to solution for that Lower had already figured out and had very well dialed in.
Yeah.
And that's no exception for the team that I came on to lead. The brand team at Lower is just full of some of the most amazing marketing professionals I've ever worked with in my career. I brought with me a team that also very, very skilled at what they do. And what was great was that we just jumped in, and it was like we were siblings separated at birth. Everybody just jumped in, started collaborating, working on projects. Yeah, there was a little bit of a learning curve on both sides, but we figured out that we all had the same vision of what we were going to do, and then we just solidified that vision, made it concrete, articulated it very well, and off we went. And it was kind of the same thing in a lot of other pieces where there was a marriage between the two companies of people coming in. As far as a culture fit, I don't know that it could have been designed any better, because the way that Thrive historically had really focused on the consumer experience is exactly what Lower has been executing on at a high level for many, many years. And not just on the retail side. Also, I mean, one of my big concerns was having an organization that was this large with the various different silos, because you see that in our industry a lot. You see that there are big lenders that have a direct to consumer model, a call center model, a
Mhm.
retail model, and a TPO model. And so that was one of the first things that I really started diving into to learn the details around, because I wanted to know what was the interplay between the three. Like, were they siloed the way that everybody else in the industry does it? Or did they have it, or was it more of like a Venn diagram? And the more I learned, the more I saw that there was a huge amount of collaboration and cooperation between the direct to consumer side and the retail side. And I also, and in ways where I saw that need getting bigger, or that particular attribute getting bigger, I jumped right in and started having conversations with people on both sides, and started learning that the way that direct to consumer educates their client and really cares for the client experience. And also, they're not just a turn and burn type of call center where there's kind of like, oh, you're best suited for an FHA. Here you go. Here's your initial disclosures. Let's go.
Yep.
Like, they're going to stop those call center agents are going to have a conversation truly about mortgage strategy. And that's what I was like, oh, I'm hooked. I'm
Yeah.
sold. And so I love that component of that. There's very little separation between the mentality of our call center loan officers and the direct to consumer division and our retail. They both, everybody's singing out of the same hymnal, or going with got out of the same playbook. Pick your
Yep.
analogy there, but yeah, that has been the unique culture fit of both entities coming together, and that goes for several of the other brands and divisions that are under the corporate umbrella for Lower. Is that
Yeah.
there's just that commonality. So I
Yeah. I
love
like
that.
it. Yeah. And that's kind of one of my favorite things that I've enjoyed about it. And again, I've only seen the retail side, right? I have no
Sure.
experience with the call center here with our company anyways. But
Hmm.
one of my favorite things is they all, at least, and when I say they, I mean the higher ups, whoever you want to
Hmm.
call them, they allow everybody to kind of be themselves, right? And so I think that's probably incredibly unique industry wide, where
Yes.
we've got many, many different brands that are all under the same umbrella that a lot of larger institutions may not even know that they're affiliated, right? And
Hmm.
that was something that was super important to us, and by us I mean mostly our Iowa division. Is
Yeah.
when we made the transition to where we're at, is we wanted to have a brand that we could have control over and be proud of, right? And that was, something that frankly in our past life we were branding the company we worked for, and not that that was a bad thing, because we were all in on them, right? We enjoyed the company, we enjoyed our time there, but the brand that everybody knew us by was that company logo. And
Hmm.
when acquisitions like you're talking about and things change and happen, and let's say that brand changes, we have to completely remarket then at that point. And that's something that we want our clients in the retail side, we want our clients to work with us for who we are as people, right? And the way
Right.
that we educate, the way we market, the way we care about their mortgage solutions and customize their journey. We want our referral partners and our clients to work with us for us. And
Right.
so when we were looking to make a transition, that was one of the big ticket items on why we loved the company that we're with now being Lower, is
Hmm.
because they still allowed us to start our own brand, right? So Key
Hmm.
Mortgage Group is our local brand that we've got, that kind
Yeah.
of is our baby, that we kind of get to build our own, network on, and get to be our own, right? Which is a lot of places, I have to imagine, would kind of force you to be working under their um whatever you want to call it. So
Yeah. The,
um
that's definitely one of the things that's very unique. Is it is a very specialized offering. It's something that it's not open to everybody, but it's
sure.
definitely something where when it's the right situation, when there's the right use case for it, yeah, it is definitely something that we'll evaluate. And as part of my research during when I was first pulled into the merger talks, that was another thing. That was a big concern of mine
Yeah.
because as a marketer, oh my gosh,
Probably incredibly challenging.
sounds like a nightmare scenario. But the brand team that existed already had done a really fantastic job of being able to automate and dial in a lot of those processes that would normally give a marketer like me heartburn
Yeah.
when I'm dealing with 20 some odd different logos and different brand identities to identify. And I started looking into I started taking a deeper look into what it was that they did in order to really affect that kind of change. And I was like, that's freaking brilliant. I mean,
Yeah.
that they did it exactly the way that I would have done it, and they set up a lot of the same systems that I would have set up. And so I was like, all right, these guys know what's up,
Yeah.
because they were at a much lesser degree. That was something that we had to solve for at Thrive previously, and so I had experience in dealing with that and knew how tough a
How
problem it
challenging
was
it
to
is.
solve. And I saw how the team at Lower solved it. I was like, all right, these guys know what they're doing.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
awesome.
that was really exciting.
Yeah, we really enjoy that. It's again, that's just super powerful for us. So,
Sure.
how about from a home buyer and a real estate agent standpoint? Is there anything that you see from your perspective? And obviously, I know you're not dealing directly with clients in today's market or world, but what
Not
would
as
you
much.
say? From what you see, because you interact with some loan officers and you do the coaching. What would you say are things that you guys are doing that will be a benefit to our real estate agents and our home buyers and our clients that we're dealing with? What would you say is something that you see that we do different that could be a benefit to them, and reasons they should give guys like me a shot to work with their clients?
Understand. I think it rises and falls on borrower education and educating the consumer on the right way to think about a mortgage strategy. yes, our name is lower, and that has an implication of we're inferring, or people can infer, or might be implying that we have lower rates, and we do. We in a lot of markets, there's folks that can't hold a candle to us. I mean, but it's not our objective to ever be the lowest rate provider, and that is not ever going to be, as far as I'm concerned, that's not ever going to be our value proposition. The value
Yep.
proposition that we're going to have, more specific to your question, is we are going to create the kind of experience that you would get with a highly polished and highly sought after certified financial planner. Basically, somebody that understands not just what's going to get us to the closing table, but how is this also going to impact you 5, 10, 15 years from now? The mortgage strategy that you adopt right now can have big impacts on your financial success down the road. If you let's say if you go with a mortgage strategy solely based on the variable of interest rate, but the right mortgage strategy for your financial needs comes with a slightly higher interest rate. If I, as a loan officer, can't illustrate that for you and demonstrate empirically using facts and figures, not just emotion, but if I can't demonstrate that for you, then I have shortchanged you as a mortgage advisor, and I'm not doing my job in the same way that a realtor, if they were advising you on what you should list your home for, and they're not very proficient at pulling CMAs and doing market analysis and proficient at knowing how to stage a home so that it shows well, then you are getting shortchanged in the choice that you made in the realtor to represent you. So it's the same kind of approach that we take, not just in our coaching so that it stands out with our loan officers, but also with our marketing, with the collateral that we produce. We take very much an educational approach in terms of what websites we're putting out there, the content that we're pushing out on social media, the scripting that we're providing to you guys out in the field for how to talk about a particular program, or what have you, or how to just go build relationships with new realtors.
Yep.
Our focus is going to be all around providing the highest level of value over and above what anyone in your market is going to be able to do for their clients. And then we just kind of hold it out for you to take it. And it's up to the loan officer to either buy into that or say, no, I'm good, and I got my own process, and that's fine too. But we're always going to be about educating the consumer in the best possible way.
Yep. I love that. And it makes me feel good that you said that, because that's the answer that I was hoping that you would say, because that's what our core I guess mission is, and what our
Absolutely.
value is we want to be known as the mortgage company in our local market that provides the most value for our clients and our partners. And so
Yep.
some examples that I think of just off the top of my head is availability, right? So number one,
Mhm.
you've got us available whenever you need us.
Mhm.
You've got access to us for long after you close on your home. If you ever have questions about servicing, anything along those lines, couple of specific things that I can speak on behalf of my company and my team that we're doing for clients as they get into the loan process. Number one thing that I'm doing as soon as their loan estimate is sent out, rather than just telling you to sign that and moving on to the loan process, I'm filming a detailed video going through that loan estimate line by line to make sure that you're informed, educated, and comfortable as a client moving forward before you decide that you want to move forward on your home purchase. So
Attaboy.
just many examples of little things that we want to do to help, really just at the end of the day, be an example and an extension of our referral partners business. So whether it's an insurance agent, a financial advisor, a real estate agent that sends us a client, or a past client that refers us business, we want to make sure that we are a direct representation of the referral that you send to us, right? And so
Yeah.
that's where we keep our heart at, and we want you to know that we are the most valued providing mortgage company in the market. So thank you for touching on that. That does mean a lot, because
Absolutely.
again, it's cool that, in two entirely different markets, both in Texas and in Iowa, we're still preaching the same things, right? So
There you go.
awesome that we're doing that. So no, this has been super valuable. Is there anything else, I guess, specifically that you would like to touch on, or any sort of value add that you think you could give to the listeners, to home buyers, to real estate agents? Otherwise, I've got one final question that I always end my podcast with that I'm pretty confident you're not ready for. But
Oh dear.
I love to kind of open the floor, I guess, at the end. Is there anything that you think that is valuable for people to hear?
Yeah, I think that the bottom line of or the bottom line question that I'll say it this way: the bottom line question that every loan originator, no matter how long you've been in this business, the bottom line question that you need to ask and answer emphatically, especially as we head into the next cycle we're on the cusp of stepping into, is to decide for yourself what kind of professional you want to be in this industry. And the answer to that question is going to determine how successful you are in the years to come, and the quality of the relationships that you're going to be building. If you are just in this, if your motivation is money, you'll find that, and you'll find those rewards, and that's great, and nothing wrong with that. Everybody loves to earn money, but that's going to put you in a particular category of what kind of mortgage professional you are. If you're somebody whose main priority is like what Brady, what you were iterating before, in establishing those quality connections with people, both your clients and your partners, you're going to find that too. And what's beautiful about making those connections is that the money will come, and it then becomes a byproduct instead of the end all be all goal or determinant of whether or not you're successful. So I applaud you for what you had to say about that. The other reason I bring that up is because that really is the distinction that consumers will be able to need to go. That's the lens that they need to evaluate. If you are, let's say you bought a house middle part of last year, and you've got an interest rate that's in the high sevens or even the eights, and you're looking to just do a rate term refi. Yeah, you can go with a call center model. You can go with the companies that advertise on Super Bowl commercials. I'm not going to say their names, but yeah, you can go with those guys if you want. It'll be quick. It'll be easy. It'll be a transaction, and you get it done. Or you can invest a little bit more time, talk to a true mortgage advisor who's going to look at the whole picture of your financial situation, and perhaps they might have an alternative suggestion that you're not necessarily taking into consideration, not because it's simply because it's not something that anybody else has taken the time to educate you on. So you've got that option. So you, as the consumer, and consumers who are listening, you get to choose what kind of mortgage professional you want to work with. And so I think the more that those of you in the industry who kind of gravitate one way or the other, the more that you put that message out there and put out the authentic message. Because if you're just going for a money grab and you're trying to say, hey, I'm going to connect with my clients, well, that's going to fall flat, because they're going to get into an experience with you, and you might win that one transaction, but they're not coming back to you. Conversely, if you are a true mortgage advisor, again, you might not win the first transaction, but if you hold true to your stated purpose of being their lender for life and following up with them and staying in touch with them, even if you didn't get the first transaction, you might get like 5 or 6 more down the road, because you're going to help them with the refi to get them out of the crappy loan that they got into when they went with the guy that was saying, hey, we're the lowest rate. And it was the wrong scenario for them. And you're going to come in and save the day by putting them in the right mortgage strategy that's going to set them up for success. They're going to remember your name.
Man, that was a minute and a half of nuggets of gold. Thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful. So, yeah, I think this has been incredible. I think that it's lit another fire in me, just to be better, right? And that's always what I want. But also, I want to leave an impact, and hopefully, the people that listen to this, feel the same and feel the empowerment to go continue to make an impact in their community, regardless of what industry you're in. If you're in mortgage, real estate, or anything with that, I think the tips that James is sharing here are applicable in many different ways. So thank you, James, for being a resource. Thanks for hopping on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Do you have socials public? Do we want to plug the socials? Do you want to let the people know where they can find you?
Yep, absolutely. If you want to connect with me, on just about any platform that's out there, you can find me under The Mortgage Teacher. So like if you just go to Instagram and do @mortgageteacher, you'll find me. LinkedIn's the same thing. My website is themortgageteacher.com, and that's got all my Now that one is set up to look more like an actual loan officer rather than an SVP of marketing.
Yeah.
But it's something that I set up back when I was more actively originating, and
Yep.
just haven't prioritized rebranding it for my current role here at Lower.
Hey,
But
that's okay
yeah,
though. Yeah, and we'll be sure to tag his socials in the comment sections below as well.
that'd be
So
great.
yeah, just be sure to give James a follow. He's got tons of valuable content, and he partners with a lot of people here at lower.com as well that have
Excellent.
just endless amounts of resources. So James, to kind of finish things off, I'm going to throw one final question at you here that I'm
All
sure
right,
you're not ready for, and I promise it's not super scary. But
let's hit it.
I'm a chicken wing connoisseur, so I have to know where's your favorite chicken wing of all time. And I guess first and foremost, do you enjoy the avid chicken wing?
I am an avid consumer of chicken wings as well, and
Okay.
in Central Texas, there's only one right answer, and that's Pluckers.
Okay. And what do you like about them? Tell me a little bit about the chicken wing itself.
I like the number one. They are huge.
Okay.
It's hard to call them chicken wings because they look like actual drumsticks. Like
Legs.
they're
Okay.
almost that big. Yeah, look like chicken legs.
Okay.
But no, they're really really big. So they must like work out their chickens but before they make it. But something happened to make them big, but they don't skimp. The variety of flavors that they have is really impressive. I'll always go for. I mean, my wife, she can take all the heat that you can throw at her.
Okay.
I'm a little bit more. I like heat. I like a good spice. I like a good
Yeah.
kick as in the back of the mouth.
Yep.
But I like to balance it a little bit with like the garlic parmesan and the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So what I like about Pluckers is they actually have a spicy uh,
Garlic
gar-
parm.
garlic parm, and there's one that's it's like a kind of a ranch. It's like a spicy ranch dip,
Yeah.
and so it adds a little bit of extra kick to it. So yeah, Pluckers is definitely the way to go.
I like it. Well, I'll add that to my list. It's always kind of the goal here is to find new spots and make a tour of them because I'm a chicken wing guy. It's kind of my thing.
There
So
you go. You make it down to
again,
Austin,
James,
I'll take it.
I'll have to add that to my list and make a vacation for it. But
There you go.
um, yeah, James, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you sharing your insight, and everybody that's made it to the end of the podcast. Thank you for listening. This has been another episode of the Brady Haye Mortgage Team podcast. Look forward to seeing you guys next time.